friends. Welcome back. We have officially crossed over into our second week of programming with 30 plays in 30 days. And thank you for being with us. I'm Jeremy Duncan Pape. I am the Interim Artistic Director at Live Arts. And tonight we are talking about the 97-98 season at Live Arts. In a little bit, we'll be joined by none other than John, Owen, and Rowena Halpin. And we're really excited they're going to join us tonight. But before we get there, I want to take a second to shout out one of our community partners. So our spotlight tonight is Petite Marie Bet. They're right next to us on Water Street. They have last year they provided our king cake for our Fete Tuesday, and they're just a wonderful local business. They're still open for takeout and delivery, and inside Live Arts we actually refer to it as Rehearsal M. We spend maybe more time there than we ought to, but pastries, how you gonna not? Yeah, if you're able to support them and get yourself something delicious, we strongly recommend it. So much love to Petite Marie Bet. Now, without further ado, the people you're here to see, John, Owen, and Rowena Halpin.
Here we all are. Let's see it this way. Here we are.
Hi, friends.
Hey, everybody.
You are now in the main session.
So thank you. Thank you both so much for joining us tonight.
My pleasure.
For those who don't know, why don't you let us know just who you are, your relationship with Live Arts, what you're up to now, maybe, Rowena?
Who's gonna go? Who's on first?
Why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Rowena Halpin. I live in Barboursville, Virginia. I got involved in the Live Arts theater program in 1991, I guess. I remember that my first assignment was being in that much talked about kitchen with Karen Schuyler, and that was very fun, and with Will and his lasagna platters. That was like my first assignment. That was very fun. And then I started, doing being the light board operator and the soundboard operator, and then I started being a lighting designer, and that was really fun, and that's kind of what kept me hanging out there. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
How about you, John? Who are you?
I'm John Owen. I'm that guy. I've been around town forever. I helped start the theater. You know, I was there on Will's porch when we started talking about, well, we really need a theater, and how are we going to do it? And we all talked about it. There I was. I did everything I could to help make the theater happen, and that was the general spirit at the time. That was what was so cool about Live Arts back then. And in the very beginning, before we had seasons, it was pretty much coming together of all the creative, performative energy that we could find. So I've been there for all that. I've designed sets, I've acted, I've been on programs, I've done all kinds of sets and costumes.
I never did costumes. I hated costumes.
Oh, well, I love costumes.
Schlepping costumes. I know. Costumes.
I even like props.
I didn't mind props. Props were fun. The costumes were awful.
Props or tops?
Props are tops.
Listen, I like all of the invisible workings, and I always loved anything that gave me a chance to paint a set or to build a costume. That was always so fun.
Yeah, you did good ones. You guys were good. And Sarah.
Fabulous. My kids.
And John too.
So good and so creative. So much a part of this whole community.
Mhm.
I always
Yeah.
had a screw gun in my hand. I was always like, I remember one of my first assignments, I think after I started volunteering more seriously, was Maggie giving me a screw gun and taking me into this back room where all this platforms and stuff were stored and said, take all this stuff apart. So I was in there the whole day, like trying to get, screws that were broken. And I remember thinking, I don't know, if this is really, but it was a real accomplishment. I learned how to use the screw gun, and then I could work with Howard Pape when he came by. It was like, it wasn't a total loss. And I did like Saturday builds were very fun. That was always good. Okay.
Yeah, and we're still doing the Saturday build. Well, we will still be doing the Saturday builds.
I said I liked them.
Just had to show up.
Uh-huh.
Like them.
Well, for our audience at home, if you take the time to go back through the production history, you'll see both of these names popping up all over the place. And I think it can be safely said that they are certainly among the cadre of people that it can be said without whom Live Arts would not be what it is today. So thank you both for your time.
Well, there are plenty of bodies to throw at something. I mean, there were plenty of people, but you just had to really want to do it and keep coming back. I think that was like, it was seductive in a way to, I'm going to go see what they want me to do next. It was good for me. I mean, it's good for people. It's a very healthy activity, I think.
I think of it as a church for creativity. It's really got to be a community. There's got to be a lot of trust. There's got to be a lot of ingenuity and reinvention, interpretation, and there's got to be elders. Hello. And there's got to be young whippersnappers,
strong
and generations. And it's got to be all that. So.
Yeah.
Maybe a touch of faith that it'll all work out in the end.
You got to jump off, man. Definitely some faith involved. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who knew that this would work and last? How fabulous is that?
Oh, Grady used to always say, welcome to Live Arts, get out and push. I always thought that was pretty fun.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about we jump into this season, run through some pictures really quickly, see if we can't jar any memories loose.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
3 tall women. This is a great show. This is a wonderful show, and it was one of my favorite of Cindy Burke's performances, because she is a tall woman.
No, I love this picture here with
Boomy
and Cindy and Karen and Emily and one of the babies.
Which one of Boomy's kids, I guess.
Yeah, there's 97. I don't know who was a baby then.
Well, I built that set with Jay Taylor. And
really?
It had a huge curved detail at the top because we really needed a traditional room, and he came through and did that for me. He was fabulous. I love to build stuff with Jay. He's very talented.
Yeah.
But that group of women, wow.
Yeah. So now falsettos was the first time that Bob Chapel directed at Live Arts, and you can see this cast is
Novikov.
Wendy Novikov and John Gibson and Doug Snyder and Jeff,
awesome.
And that's like a young Alex Davis.
He's always eternally young to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of decorative painting in the background there. The set was really not a very important character, but I designed it.
That sponge.
Monster therapy. These were so fun to do. They were completely without boundaries. We put this stuff together in the biggest, craziest, most theatrical soup. So much fun. And Coffee House too. These were the brainchild of Fran. She's so brave. But I did lots and lots of set work.
I think Kristen still has that costume.
He wears it around the house these days.
Was that Jane Scatina and Bill Lasore over there?
Yes, that was the first time I worked with James Scatina. Yeah, and no, I had already directed Bill Lasore in The Fantastics. Now this show, don't even remember it. How about that?
So
it was foolery, right? It's a foolery. Yeah.
This was I think it was the
foolery.
Yeah, I think now this might have
This
been
must have been
Foolery's
Foolery's
very
first.
Yeah, I think
was
it was
the
their
first-
very first show.
First thing for
Oh,
live
well,
artists to do.
Then I do remember it because they put so much talent into that troupe. It was unbelievable. Seagull, that's my show. I
That's
directed
you, right,
it.
John? That was one of your.
I directed it and I built the set too. Designed and built the set.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful.
It was a very rich time for the theater in terms of how much talent we had and how we had really come to grips with the shortcomings of the Mickey building. You know. But
I
this
love
is a
that space. I thought that space was great to work in.
I really enjoyed it too. Well, this is a thing about creativity. It needs some obstacles to really show its form. Edgar, John Carden. Do you remember this show?
No.
Oh
I do
yeah,
not.
he did this in the office in that other section of the old Mickey building. They did it in what was the office. They made it into a theater, and Edgar was a piece that was largely by John Carden, as far as I remember. Pretty powerful. Lewis.
I think I might have taken this decade off or something. I don't know.
I doubt it. I doubt it. But they flew by.
Yeah. So now Lewis and Clark, this was conceived and created by the ensemble, right?
Yes.
That was a big dance piece. I remember putting that floor in with Maggie. I remember that floor was a really big deal to get all this fabric glued down. It was a cool project, that part.
It was fierce, but that was a great piece about the community and built from within the community. And they took a lot of pride and a lot of good hard time doing it. It was fierce. It was a great show.
That's another one.
fun.
If you go into the production history, that's a long list of people involved.
It sure is. It sure is.
Now, Ro, this was one of yours.
I'm coming back. It's just not really dark.
Oh, got it. So Ro designed the lights for this show. You can see that she's retired. She didn't light herself properly before this.
Yeah, this was one of those. This was just like, I get this confused with The Girl's Guide to Chaos. I guess because 3 women being chaotic.
And it's Cindy.
Like that
Cindy
Lily
again.
Tomlin play. I was really into that book. I thought that book was really funny. And we went to DC and saw Lily Tomlin do that show. Hey, slow down on the slides, man. And that was amazing. And now I lost my track of thought. Oh, here's what I wanted to say. When I looked at the slides in review, I went, God, where was I? And then I looked at last season and I realized I had done like The Waiting Room, and then I did Rhinoceros, and I think I was kind of enough with that. And I had just bought a house and anyway, enough about me, but that's my excuse for not knowing anything about this season. Thank you.
Now I painted this set, but I didn't design it. But John Gibson directed it, and it was one of my first chances to see Jane Scatina really do a full-on, full-size piece. She had done the Coffee House before that. Very exciting. But
I think Doug Snyder actually directed this, but John designed the set.
He directed it.
Yeah.
You're right. That's right. John. That's right. Let's make that right, because Doug does a great job. But he asked me to paint these backdrops, and I've painted a million backdrops, but those were really challenging because they had to be translucent, But it was a very pretty
those
show.
are like
Very pretty. Very pretty.
3 big canvases that you painted.
Yeah, huge. Yeah, it was great fun. And that's the great thing about working at Live Arts. It gave me continual opportunities to work big. I work lots of residential style interiors. I do lots of interior design and lots of interior fancy painting, but this is really a chance to be very aggressive and splashy and, because once you get it out there and everybody's looking at it, they miss 2/3 of what you really want them to see. So you got to make it huge so that they'll get the 1/3 that's really important to the event.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, this is the part what's interesting is when I looked back through this history, I saw that I was involved in all of that season through the whole year in one way or another, in some way, all of those shows, but I may not have been involved in the content, but I was involved in the theater so thoroughly at that time that I remember all of this activity. I don't remember a lot of dates and names, but I'm pretty sure that we were all doing as much as we could.
Yeah. Do you remember the shows? Did you go to all the shows? Because I would work there on stuff and wouldn't really go.
I don't go to every show. I would try to watch something I knew I wouldn't get to. I'd try to watch it in rehearsal, but I'd stop that after a while too. It just got to be too much.
I would also a lot of rehearsals, go to bunches of rehearsals and dress rehearsals, but then I would feel like I was done and missed a lot of great performances. So I kind of regret that in a way. But
I think of the tech in the same way that I think about the cast. As a director, the most important thing I could do would be choose the right cast. But as a designer, what you have to do is put your design into play, whatever type of design it is, and then you have to set it free and let it happen. Right. When I did costumes for Jesus Christ Superstar, we made all these costumes out of those Tyvek painters' protective coveralls. And in the course of the show, they came apart.
Yeah.
But that became a dynamic that was completely embraced by the show. These costumes shredded, we would put them back together.
So cool.
With duct tape and pins and ribbon, and each character became more evident by the eventual destruction of their costume. And it's so ridiculous, but so true that you just have to take a good idea and let it get stinky
Evolve.
Right there during the production.
Take on a life of its own.
It's a character it's kind of a character in the show. I know that it's certainly true about lights. The lights have a very powerful. They are a very specific rendition of what's happening on stage.
And they really have to stay through the whole show. You can't be like having a light go out or quit because that really throws everybody off. I mean, a costume may evolve into a shred, but
level of appreciation, not just on or off. I was talking about the color and the affectation.
Yeah.
I asked Mark Schuyler once, maybe it was Mark Schuyler, somebody who was doing lights for the show, to make it look like morning. And when he got it lit, I said, that looks like evening to me. And he goes, this is what I always use for morning. So the designer has to put his, take in there, walk away.
You really have to work with it. I remember did one show. I don't think we've gotten to it yet. It's later on, but it was the setting was a very hot place. Let's just call it that. And I made the lighting a lot of straw and yellows, so it would look, like these people were hot. I mean, it was like too much sun and too much light. And the director was like, they don't look pretty.
Yeah, well.
So I had to change it all to like, surprise pink or something so that the people would look pretty. And Doug Schneider always said, just make me look pretty. I want R05. It's pink every time.
Pretty. That's what we want. Well, there's a lot of pretty on for sure.
One actress, I got to a blonde woman. I got to backlight her with a green light, and and it didn't get taken away, even though it looked really good. I mean, if we had a picture of that, I think you would enjoy to see that. It's been fun seeing these photographs of shows and how the lighting, man, and Will Kerner's photography. They're great looking pictures.
It's so great to see. And you know, I look at these people and I think, gosh, it feels like yesterday that we're all in the theater. So it's been quite some time. It's nice. It's nice to have some opportunity to be retrospective like this. It really is. I think.
Yeah, it's fun. It is fun.
Row and I
Okay,
met at Fort County. We both worked all over the place in the community in community theater. You know, there's a lot of coming together of a lot of theatrical effort that ended up at Live Arts. Yeah. So,
Well, and it's an important thing. I mean, the community is more than just the immediate organization. We're certainly lucky to be part of a
Live
larger
Arts
community.
had my heart and soul, I have to say.
Yeah.
Nothing
You were
compared to that place for me.
Yeah, it was so good to have you. So good to have you there. Awesome. Yeah.
So, so we've touched on a couple of these questions and these ideas a little bit. But one of the things that came up was sort of that balance between, as a designer, maybe your concept, your idea, your vision, and how that can maybe come up against the vision of a director. And do y'all have any thoughts, any wisdom for our audience about how to engage with that sort of space? I feel like there's a lot of that happens in theater across the boards.
Well, it's a truly collaborative media. I mean, that's what makes it what it is.
Yeah.
So there's not just one part.
Yeah.
And it's the whole, the director is in charge, the designers bring to the director all their great ideas. Some stay, some go. I mean, it's a great lesson in many things of how to do so many things.
So true.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. I remember, you know, sometimes the hardest thing to accept is not getting a role, but you know, the director has to choose and the director makes that choice. And it's true of every piece. The key is that the director has to make that production seamless so that there's no place where you say, oh, that would have been the choice of the set designer, and that's the choice of the lighting designer. They always do that. Or those are typically costumes built by so-and-so. That stuff has to all melt away into the bigger melange of design that is that production. And that becomes, it should be seamless, and it should be according to the vision of the director. That's my opinion. It's not always true like that. Sometimes it's the vision of the producer. But that's sort of the way I see it. And that makes for tremendous negotiation, creative, and sometimes very much about your ego too.
Oh, the ego word. Yikes.
Well, let's stick to ego and not get onto id.
Good call, man.
So, you know, we all know that storytelling is sort of a really major part of theater. And some, you know, and everybody has their own opinion about how much of a part. I'm of an opinion that it is the largest part. How do you find that design, whether it be lights, whether it be set, whether it be costume, can you think of any specific ways in which that can help uplift or further the storytelling in a given show or otherwise?
You know, I've always felt like we had one of my big challenges, because I'm largely fired up about classicism. And I love beauty, but I think costumes can bring authenticity, and sets can bring atmosphere. And I think each of those things should be addressed as a creative opportunity. And I think each of them can be a character in the play at its highest quality. That's kind of my take on that. And I always hope I can do it.
I forgot the
Yes,
question.
How does design further storytelling?
Does not, of course it does. I always enjoyed when we picked a project, we would all get a little script, we would all go read it a bunch of times, especially with lighting. You always read it so many times. You know, first you just read it to read it, and then you go back and find anything that's, it's morning, it's cold, anything that would be influenced by lighting. So you really get involved in the story. And then you have these meetings, you have like 10 weeks of meetings. And even though they're kind of like, oh God, another meeting, they're really a great thing, because then your story, you know, you're all there and you all start to add to the story. And I think that's a really great process. I love the process. And I think, does that help with the answer?
Absolutely.
Oh.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's another we kind of mentioned a little bit, we touched on a little bit, is that idea of a challenge or an obstacle being an opportunity to be creative. We know live arts is chock full of some of those opportunities, namely columns in the middle of stages and lack of resources and time and all of the standard things. Do you have any bits of wisdom around that kind of space, or any even just fun stories to talk about just some of those challenges that maybe turned into opportunity?
Well, in lighting, it's always fun to, you know, build things, to build a certain kind of light. And in 609 with the seal, you know, the ceiling was low. Mm-hmm. And so you could get a lot of bang out of a pin spot. I mean, you could do so much with a pin spot, which I love those lights. You know, I would have them all around my room right now. They were like magic. I remember lighting somebody's face, you know, and it would just look beautiful. And it's not a big light. It's just a tiny thing. So, and I think we were always putting together some electric project, you know. Yeah. So I didn't see this limitation, and I liked the columns. I thought the columns were a lot of fun. They didn't bother me at all. I think they were.
I thought they were hysterical. Well, you talk about your line of vision and your best and worst seats. You know, it did redefine a lot of that. But they were great. It was great fun to be in that space. For one thing, you couldn't hurt it. You know, I mean, you could paint anything, anywhere, anytime. And
that was cool.
Rough and ready. Mm-hmm. And that was really kind of
freedom. It was very freeing.
Yeah. And then we really did make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, as far as, I mean, there were some pretty ugly under edges. But when you came into the theater, you were like, look what they've done here. This is going to be it. It was very authentic and very, it was just realer than anything I've done in a long time. Very real. Really wonderful that way, though. I think
and all the things you can reuse and, you know, I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say the thing about obstacles, everybody learns because they all have to step over the same or go around the same column. We all learn that as a team. And in that funny way, those obstacles make the community of our ensemble, because we all understand them in our own way and we all think of our own solutions. And I was worried about that when we moved to the new building. I was on the committee for that, and it was like, you know, we're going to get slick here. One of the things we're really good at is rough and ready. I'm just saying.
We've got a few obstacles in that new building.
Yeah, that place. Just whacking my head so many times up there on that grid. That grid was just like, I remember when somebody, probably Thad and Maggie, built that ladder rack that you could put the big ladder on, and then you could just roll yourself around. Boy, that was like a coolest invention ever. That it was fun. It was fun. That ladder was fun.
That was your realm. I didn't go up there much.
No, I was up there all the time. I was always up a ladder. Sorry. Not
well,
much more.
Before we sign off tonight, I'm hoping to get from each one of you your favorite live art story, or even just one that you think might not get told by anybody else.
Uh-oh. Favorite live art story.
No judgment. It can even just be the first live art story you remember.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I did, John Gibson and I designed those many galas, and one of the stories about one of the crazy ones that we did at maybe even in that year, with the gala that year, it fell very close to Halloween, and we used pumpkins. Pumpkins were hanging from the ceiling. There were streamers and then pumpkins. It all sounds like a huge fire hazard, but they had actual candles in these pumpkins. And so at some point during the night, one of these dangling lanterns that we had put up became completely melted. The candle was completely liquid, and these were pretty rowdy events. Everyone was dressed up and drunk for sure, but we were dancing a lot. And someone upset this somehow, even though it was not supposed to be within reach, and splurted all this hot wax onto somebody's fancy gown. And it was kind of like our petticoats were really showing that year. But it was a great party. I mean, we would use anything. Leftover Halloween jack-o'-lanterns, whatever.
Yeah, we did one that was all about recycling, and we had to collect all these tin cans and plastic stuff.
We made a huge garland a really thick garland of all those clear plastic bottles and strung them on. It was pretty impressive. Yeah,
that's when I saw the most of you at galas, John Owen.
Yeah, well, I like to raise money.
Remember the Ix Gala?
Wow, it was fantastic. Weren't they amazing?
That was nutty. That was way too much work.
It was a lot of work. Well, that was more square footage than we ever were used to.
That was very
dirtier
intense.
than too, but what a great opportunity though to have an event over there. It was amazing. Yeah. That space has completely changed now.
It certainly has.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
No, I was just going to say my most recent work has been at the Ix Park with the Looking Glass Museum. That's what I've been doing.
Yeah. I was really disappointed that among everything else had to get shut down.
Yeah, well, immersion.
Yeah. Ro, how about you? Do you have a story before we sign off?
I have a lot of little stories, not really a big story. And some of the stories would be at other people's expense, if you know what I mean.
Fair.
And I they weren't funny at the time, but they're funny in retrospect. And, but I have very fond memories and, small stories of being on the staff with, Rhonda and Susan. Hi, Susan. And everybody. It was just, and they're just little things that I think of from time to time, but I couldn't really share them as stories. Sorry, everyone.
No, that your kindness is generosity. So Thank you for sharing that with us.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And,
my pleasure.
People can come up to Barboursville and buy a drink and maybe get a story.
Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have a bar.
That's true, actually.
There's no bar in Barboursville. Can you believe it? We need to have a rave out here, Will Kerner.
Yeah. A rave?
Hey, let's open it. Oh, no, there it is.
Well, friends, I think we're running up against the clock a little bit tonight. But I want to just thank you both for sharing your time and your stories with us tonight, and your wisdom about design, of course.
Thank you, Jeremy. It was a great, good thing that you're doing. I hope everybody's okay out there, and that I'm glad we're kind of providing some small entertainment. And everybody stay well.
Mhm.
Oh,
You're
I
right.
couldn't agree more. Everybody stay well.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to see both of you tonight, especially you, Ro. I don't see enough of you. And all of you out there, just, watch for Live Arts and anything they do and any way in which they need you, because it's our seed. It's our little project. It belongs to the community. So be part of the community and let's see what they need. Anyway, it's so much fun to talk about the old times, and I love reviewing that. And thank you so much, Jeremy, for putting it together. Really.
Thank you for being a part of it.
My
Truly.
pleasure.
So tomorrow night, we'll be back again. We'll be talking about the 98-99 season, and we're going to start touching on No Shame Theater. Ann Hunter, our wonderful executive director, will be hosting, and she'll be speaking with Jessica McCoy and Todd Ristow. So please join us tomorrow night, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, everybody.